Hello everyone, welcome to our first interview for our official newsletter in a flash, and we have a very special guest with us today. Ashish Chawla is a professional photographer for over 2 decades now. He has been working in the field of fashion, lifestyle, and underwater photography. He has worked with brands like Realme, Fanta, Mintra, and magazines with like Hello. Currently, he's the brand ambassador for Fujifilm. We are delighted to have you, sir. And this is Devansh. I'm currently serving as the president at Zephyr, the Film and Photography Society of CBS. And this is Riddhi Oberoi, public relations head of the society. We're delighted to have you here and with us for this discussion, and so that we can just get on with it. So if you don't know, this interview is going to get published in our official newsletter in a flash, and this newsletter is going to get public on 31st of October 2021. So without further ado, let's start with the interview. We can hear you well, right? Can you hear us?
I can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah, all right. So let's just cut to the chase and just get on with it. So like, how did you start with your, the field that you're working in? How did your career begin in photography?
Well, I started over 2 decades ago, as we spoke about it. I actually graduated as a fine art. I was a fine art graduate. I did my graduation in fine art. I went to College of Art in Delhi and did my bachelor's in fine art there in applied art. So, I mean, there we had photography as a subsidiary. So I was exposed to the darkroom there, and we would take pictures to shoot our campaigns while designing advertising ideas and campaigns. So I realized that I used to paint as a child. So, I mean, for me, photography came as a really the fastest medium to create visuals back in the days. And these I'm talking about the film times. Even then, I found photography was by far the most realistic and the easiest way to represent reality in front of you. And it was absolutely fastest, because to paint a canvas, it would take me months. There are times it would take me years. You get lazy. Unlike photography, it's you being as present in the moment as possible. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I started I bought my camera in 95, and it's been almost 25, 26 years I've been taking pictures. Professionally, I started after college. I joined Mr. Pradeep Das Gupta. He was my mentor for 2.5 years. He's one of the most acclaimed still life and advertising photographer. And I worked under him for 2.5 years, learned all nuances, all genres of photography. And then I set up my studio in 2000. So it's been 21 years as I've been working as an individual professional photographer with a studio of my own.
Sounds like a great journey, sir.
Yeah.
So yeah, moving ahead, Riddhi.
Yeah, we would like to know that what attracted you the most towards fashion photography and underwater photography as a field of career.
Well, when somebody asks me about what is the most attractive thing about fashion photography, I feel fashion photography is one genre of photography that is closest to fine art in a commissioned environment, where somebody is paying you to create images which could appear like fine art. So that to me makes it special over many other genres. I mean, and if you look at older Renaissance masters and paintings, etc., you'd always find costumes which would make those images stand out so much more, the portraiture, etc. So to me, I think fashion is one of those genres which kind of encompasses a lot of those elements, a lot of color, texture, design. It also gives you the sense of geography of the place. It gives you a sense of culture of the place. So for me, it's very enriching as a genre to work around with. And as far as underwater goes, it's the most peaceful thing to do ever, whether you're diving or you're just taking picture in the swimming pool or wherever, because one, you're holding your breath, so, or you have cylinders on your back and you're counting your breath, so every breath matters. So your focus is you cannot be more focused than that, because you have to keep your concentration, your breathing, and the direction if you're shooting models or or underwater life, your focus is, you're so focused through the viewfinder, through your glasses, that it's like all there, and you cannot be more present than that. We're observing your breathing, and you're visually just looking at what's in front of you.
All right, so a follow-up question to that, because that intrigued me a little. So, what for our beginners that are hearing this and viewing this video, what are the additional equipments that you need for the underwater photography? Because it is something that everyone is not aware of.
Well, you can start shooting with a little housing for any camera that you own, any Android or iPhone or whatever you own. I mean, I would recommend get a good housing, invest in a good housing, so that you don't wrench your camera and or the phone, whichever you're using. Otherwise, among the cameras, GoPro is a good cheap option, and then there are other brands which one can look at, and otherwise it gets too expensive. I mean, your housings can cost you probably more than your camera. So but for anyone who's wanting to try it out, just kind of just get a little housing for your phone camera. That's a good start.
All right. So talking about different genres, I want to ask, how do you find the difference between a studio shoot and an outdoor shoot?
See, both have its own pros and cons, and I think I enjoy both. I wouldn't say equally or anything, but there are phases where I love shooting outdoors. There are also depends on the weather actually. So I think they both have their own. You have things a lot more in control when you're in studio. So you can define your shots. Unlike when you're outdoor, you're at the mercy of the weather, you're at the mercy of the location, etc., etc. But having said that, that also gives you the opportunity to create something which you'd not thought about. So that's kind of nice about shooting on location. And then of course, travel is something that excites me a lot. So location photography over studio photography any day.
Okay, talking of fashion photography, what is the one lighting advice you would give for fashion photography?
Well, one lighting advice for photography, be it fashion or any other photography, I would say just use one light to begin with. So because we all kind of wake up to that one light every morning, which is the sun, which is that one light source. So if you're able to kind of understand how that light kind of envelops the planet that we live in and everything around you, you'll start to see your ambient light better. You'll start to understand how your tube light works. You'll start to understand how your bulbs in the house work. So understanding that one light is a great start for anybody. So even when I'm setting up my compositions, I make sure that I start with one light and then start adding little more lights to balance out that key light. So understanding that one key lighting is one lighting tip that I would suggest everybody. And the best place to learn that is go out and do a lot of street work, understand how the light falls around you, because same sunlight that's bouncing on the road or a white surface will bounce back in your face. You could be backlit with it, but you'll still have light on your face because either the road or a wall in front of you, something will be bouncing back. So to understand that one light will teach you everything about lighting. So that's my one lighting tip.
Great.
All right. So, the next question will be in the dynamic world that you already know, photography techniques and equipments are changing, at a rapid pace. So, how do you, as a photographer, keep yourself up to date with that?
Considering the fact that I started during the analog era and I've dabbled in variety of camera formats and variety of film formats, like from a 35mm to a medium format to a large format 4x5, and then moving to a APS-C digital 7 megapixel to now over 100 megapixel. So I think it's very important because photography is it's a technique driven medium visually. I mean, you can say that I'm an artist, I do sketches with pencil, that still requires less technique. It requires more your mind and hand connection. Versus photography, which has a piece of equipment that enables you to create visuals. So that way, I feel it's very important for us to respect the technology and kind of evolve with it, because I think we are living in the best times where we've seen the analog era, and now we have the digital, and now the mirrorless. So now anything is possible. You just need to have a vision for what you're trying to achieve. So we have all options available to us. So we are in a great time, and it's good to evolve with the times. And as we talk about fashion is also a continuous movement. It's continuously evolving. So a lot of fashion photographers choose to shoot on film just for the romance of it, or just to create a different look than what you'd get from the digital. But I guess it's a catch-22. It's like you keep going around in circles, and I feel it's very important to evolve with technology.
So, do you read any follow-up blogs for that? Like, are there any kind of websites you follow? Any references so that our viewers can just get the same references?
Well, I've been following a lot of photographers' works, and honestly telling you, I don't really. There are enough vloggers on YouTube who are doing these camera reviews and who kind of talk about the technique of photography. So for me, technique of photography is not so important. You can learn all the techniques that's attached to photography in 6 months. But what matters is how do you develop that understanding and eye for composition and lighting. At the end of the day, it's just a tool. It's just a medium. Whether I shoot with a film camera or I shoot with a digital camera, I shoot with a plate camera or whatever, it's technique can be learned, and there are enough channels for that. You just have to kind of maybe just search it on YouTube and find those, and depending on what genre you choose to work around with. So my advice would be to look at look beyond photography. Don't just look at photographers' work. Do look at the artist's work. Do go pay some visit to galleries, try and listen to some kind of music. Develop interest in variety of fields, because as a photographer, you need to be well versed with what's happening around the world, the history of it, the political situation of it, and everything else. So it's because it's what society is about, right? So I guess beyond referring to one genre or one thing, so if you can do a course in art appreciation, that really helps. In terms of understanding what's happening in the art world, and why is this image better than the other one, it just helps you to choose. So if there's a course you can find, they used to have a course at the National Museum in Delhi, but I'm not sure if that's still there, but it was a very good course. If you can pick up an online course on art appreciation, that's a good course. That's my recommendation to anybody. And do a lot of street work. And of course, look at the Magnum photographers, look at all the classics. Whenever you get into the history of things, you got to start from where it started from. And thankfully, photography is just a little over 150 years old. So, there's not much that one has to look beyond. Go to the museum. There's a camera museum in Gurgaon, which is an amazing place for anybody to understand history of photography. So it's next to Galleria. I would recommend everybody, including whether you're interested in photography or not, it's a must-see place just to see how photography has evolved and how photography affects our lives.
Great. So we would like to know what has been the toughest aspect in underwater photography.
Toughest aspect, Riddhi, is buoyancy. Buoyancy is something like, you can handle your breathing through your equipment and cylinder and all, but if you're shooting in the sea, there's always the water is moving, and your buoyancy, you need to be neutrally buoyant. That's one very important thing. For any underwater photography, figuring out your buoyancy is very important, that how neutral buoyant you can be, how stable you can be at one place in the water. Otherwise, you can keep going yo-yo inside water. It'll just throw you around and you wouldn't know what are you shooting. So In fact, I used to shoot underwater on film as well. I probably shot my first underwater film in 1998. And I had gone to I took a model and took her to this place there was a place called Fun and Food Village. So I knew the owner, so I just kind of shot underwater there. So it was like a eureka moment, because that time in India, there weren't many people who were aware of underwater photography. And of course, then I became a professional diver. I've done enough courses on diving, and also I'm an advanced scuba diver. So I've dove around the world. So it's like, basically buoyancy is the key to it. How buoyant you can be, how patient and calm you can be underwater. That's all. That's the most important thing.
All right. So the next question will be like, what according to you is the main element in fashion photography?
What is the main element? I guess the clothes. Definitely the garment is the most important, because that's what you're trying to showcase. And of course, then secondly, the model. And to me, what is as a crew, I feel the stylist plays the most important role in a fashion shoot, because they're the ones who are putting the looks together. They're the one who come with the perception of how the trend will follow, how the image should appear to be. So as much as a photographer is important, a stylist is equally important. So some understanding of color, some understanding of texture, light, that plays an important role as well. You don't need to be a fashion designer to know fashion photography. Like, I'm the least fashionable person, if you kind of really ask me. But I enjoy creating visuals. For me, it's like anything that looks artistic and aesthetic. And if I know how to balance my color and how to balance textures, I think you're pretty much there. You don't need to become a Versace to be a fashion photographer.
So as you have worked in underwater photography, fashion photography, and lifestyle photography, so what do you find brings them together, or what is a common element in them?
Lifestyle, underwater, and fashion. I think the common element in most would be color, because I think that's what make them fantastic, right? You look at a fashion image. I mean, you can look at a black and white fabulous fashion image too. But if you're talking about stringing the three genres together, I think colors, because it's very fascinating to see how colors change underwater. And it's lifestyle. They say he's got a colorful lifestyle. So colorful itself kind of gives you that feeling that we are talking about certain amount of joy and happiness. And fashion, again, I think color is something that would probably put these three together.
Great.
All right. So in this world, like, where we all use Photoshop, we all use After Effects. So how do you find, like, how essential do you find photo manipulation in lifestyle photography?
Well, it's again just a tool, Devansh. I mean, like, there used to be retouching back in the days as well, when they used to. I mean, so painting was all paintings were painted, right? So I think it's just another tool. It's eventually what the photographer's vision is like. There are photographers who are purists, who would just shoot color negative and just give prints as is. There are photographers who will never crop their images, which is absolutely fine. But if there are photographers who would shoot 100 pictures and layer them up to create a beautiful visual. So I think everybody has their own style, and how well you use these tools to your advantage is what matters. And honestly, I do not judge anybody for that. It's like if you tell a woman you look really gorgeous, and if she takes her makeup off and she looks a little different, so would you say that she's not gorgeous enough? So I think just like we would like to dress up, you would like to wear a beard. You can very well be clean shaven, or I could be wearing a beard. But we make our choices. So similarly, Photoshop or retouching, post-production of the image is a very personal choice. It's how you want your image to eventually look. So I don't see anything, any problem with that. Rather, as I said, the technology is enabling us to choose. You do not want to do it. Your style says that I do not. I want it like I want the pores to show. I want the model that the skin to show. I want the weathered face. Then so be it. I don't want to add contrast. I want it straight out of the box. You have the choice. If somebody wants to take it to the moon, well, there you go.
Great. So who has been your biggest inspiration in your career?
In my career, that's I would name a few painters actually. I mean, I love Salvador Dali to begin with, then Rembrandt for his lighting, Vermeer for again his lighting and his single light source lighting, and then Picasso for all his abstraction. Like Picasso, I feel is a great guru to look at because he never got bound with one style, and he would always move from one to the other. And he always said that when I was a 9-year-old, I could paint like Rembrandt, but it took me a lifetime to paint like a child. So I think that's what these kind of these guys really kind of inspired me very early in my life. And of course, there are loads of photographers. There's Richard Avedon, there's Nick Knight, there's Nadav Kanda, there's Stephen Meisel, there's Helmut Newton. I can give you a Tim Walker. I can give you a list of a whole lot of. There's Duane Michaels. So there are again so many photographers and surrealists and people you could look at. There's Alex Webb in there's Henri Cartier-Bresson. So there are like I mean there is so much inspiration. There are so many inspiring people who still, some of them are still active and they still kind of surprise you with what they come up with. So I think it's an ever evolving process, and you cannot just say oh, I was inspired by one tombstone 50 years ago and I'm still stuck to that. So your inspiration also evolve. So yeah, but yeah, the core is there. I mean, I still go back to painters for basic references because Picasso's blue period has inspired a lot of art and a lot of photography as well. Like you find a lot of fashion photographers using blue gel like Edward Hopper as a painter has inspired more photographers than you can ever imagine. He was an American painter, and everybody 20 years ago was copying Edward Hopper without even knowing where it's coming from. There were photographers like Gregory Crewdson who were inspired from Edward Hopper, and then there were fashion photographers who were inspired from Gregory Crewdson, and then there were photographers who did not know any of them, but they were just blatantly copying a certain work. So I feel it's constant. Inspiration evolves in its own way. So you just have to keep your eyes open and mind open to things. And also, as I said, knowing history helps because then you can go to the root of where that idea is germinating from. So good to kind of be well educated in history and knowing the history of the subject you're interested in.
All right. So moving a little away from technicality, what has been one of the most exciting moments of your career?
Well, I guess every day is exciting. Honestly, that's what I love about my job. Every day is like I would say exhibiting personal work is definitely on top of that list because there's nothing more gratifying than seeing your huge prints and just walking through the whole body of work. It's not just flipping through a magazine. It's not just kind of. So I think there's a personal attachment that comes with showcasing your work in public domain, and because then you're thinking yourself as an artist. So being an artist, being in that space, I think is the highlight. Like I had my first show in Bologna in Italy. That was one of the most memorable moments. And I had the same show at the Visual Arts Gallery at the Habitat. So those moments are something which I cherish. And of course, then there's always the first show that kind of is the most exciting, and the following ones are of course as exciting. But I guess you just feel that you've arrived after when you see your work on the walls. And there are people willing to buy it and put it back in their houses, their places. So I feel that's been the highlight of my career. I mean, I've shot enough celebrities, which is again great fun to work with. A lot of designers I've worked with, and it's a great joy to collaborate with all of them. And but eventually, if I feel that I can hang this image on my wall, and I'll love it for another 10, 20 years. That's a great joy. And looking through the viewfinder, it's joy every day. Trust me.
Great, sir. So you've worked in this, you're in this career for more than 2 decades. So how do you think it has evolved?
Photography
Yeah,
or my work.
photography in general.
Photography is definitely like the whole camera systems have changed from a 35 to a medium format, from film to this is like earlier we would expose the film, like you would buy the film, process it, you'll get the result after 3 days, and then or 2 days, or maybe the same evening if you're in a tearing rush. But you would not know what you shot because every time you would click, the shutter will go blank and you would not see what you've shot. You can only anticipate. Versus now with mirrorless, you're seeing the depth of field, you're seeing the aperture, you're seeing it all through that digital viewfinder. So Fujifilm has done some tremendous advances in the technology bit, and also it's a lot different. Like earlier, I would take forever to focus on my model. There were times I would watch out for the distance. Oh, okay, she's standing 10 feet away from me, so I'll go to the lens and put it on 10 feet. That used to be my focus point. It used to happen in underwater as well. And then came autofocus. Well, I started shooting with autofocus camera. Earlier I used to wind my camera. So then autofocus, auto winding, that helped, that made it things faster. And then comes digital, where you can see it then and there, even better. Now you have these eye detects where the camera just, you don't even need to look through the camera now. You just kind of shoot. You can just shoot, and the camera will find the focus. And so I think that's kind of miracle. I mean, that's like this technology is like something that'll take me 10 hours to shoot takes me 4 hours now. So it's really enabling me to work faster, think faster, and eventually, if I know that okay, I can do it in post, I'll not spend the whole day. Like earlier, we would do say 2 pictures in the day, one early morning, one in the evening. Now you could be working through the day and still kind of getting that evening sun in the broad daylight. So technology that way is really it's got its pros and cons. I mean, it was very leisurely earlier, so that was also great laid back time. And that time your responsibility as a photographer would be just transparency. Your scissor was your edit table. On a light table, you just see your transparencies with a loop, cut them, give it to the client. Your job is over. Thank you so much. Now you till the end, you've done your CMYKs or RGBs to your files. Everything is your responsibility. How the final, which has also given us a lot of control on our images, but it's also a lot more responsibility. It's a lot more work.
Right. So that's great to hear, sir. One thing that I want to know is like, all right. So one suggestion that you'd want to give to a budding photographer like us.
So if you have an APS-C camera, put a 35mm on it. If you've got a full frame camera, put a 50mm on it. Go out on the streets. If you're a Delhi-based fellow, go to Chandni Chowk. Shoot 10,000 pictures. Not go trigger happy. Think and shoot. Think if you had to, like, what I would suggest whoever would come for this advice is, like, during my time, a film roll would cost me 200 rupees and processing it would cost me about 150, 160 rupees with taxes. So you're basically paying 360 rupees for 36 frames. So I would tell my assistants and whoever would come and meet me for advice, I said, you have to have that integrity when you're looking through that camera, that आपने वो बटन दबाया, आप 10 रुपए का मथा टेक रहे हो भगवान को. 36 frames, 360 rupees. So every time you're clicking, you have to be that sure that it's $10 gone. So if you have that integrity and then you're taking pictures, your composition, you'll be very careful with what you're shooting, and you'll not hope for some wonderful surprise end of the day, or hoping that you'll touch it up in Snapseed or Photoshop or something. So you'll be more prepared. So if you can think like that, like if you had to pay for this, taking that image, how will you whether you'll take it or how many exposures would you take? So I think it's very important to have that mental discipline while you taking pictures, or just don't go randomly shooting. Then you're not a photographer. You're just a guy who's bought a camera, or just has a camera in hand. You're a man who's just bought an expensive camera, and it doesn't make you a photographer. So I remember this conversation with Prabhudev Dasgupta once, where I told him, Delhi photographers, there's a group called Delhi Photographers in Facebook. And you know what? There are 2,500 photographers. He said, I wonder if there are 2,500 photographers in the world. so that was quite a statement he made, and that's quite correct. I mean, having a camera versus being a photographer, they're two different things. A lot of people think that buying an expensive piece of equipment, attending a few workshops, or getting some successful assignment will turn this into a lucrative career. It's not. You need to be a lot more well versed if you really want to step into this field. And the longevity, of course. I mean, you can take it up for 5 years, you could be doing well, but what next? You have to have enough content in yourself, be it through art education or through any kind of visual communication education, so that you can at least make a living out of it in the long run, if you're talking in professionally, if you say so.
Great, sir. Great. So, very insightful. We would like to know, what do you consider your best work till now?
Probably something I just shot last week.
Any example, anything that you could show us right now?
Would you like me to share it right now? I won't have any print, but I can send you some links.
Yeah, sure.
I can send you some links of some exciting stuff I've done recently. I just shot a film for Fujifilm, and we've done stills around it. It was inspired again from art. It was inspired from pulp fiction. So I have some books on pulp fiction, which are some painters, American painters who've done pulp fiction art, and it's inspired from film noir, and also that was an interesting project. Not to say that that's the best, but that's the most recent one I can think of. But yeah, I mean, every shoot is a challenge, and every successful image is joyful. I mean, so it's hard to say which is my favorite image.
No problem, sir. You can share it. We can put it somewhere in the frame while posting it on YouTube. And it was lovely to have you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I enjoyed ones.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking out some time from your busy schedule, sir. And it was indeed an insightful interview. We'd sure like to have you on one of our photo walks, and we actually conduct regular photo walks at different locations in Delhi, so that we all have that photography zeal that we have to maintain. So yeah, thank you so much, sir.
I haven't gone for any of those photo walks in my life yet, but maybe I'll make an exception for you guys someday.
Yeah, sir. Sure, definitely. We'd love to have you.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for having me over. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Have a great day. Bye-bye.